And honestly, if you read the guidance on the front, that's really what the Department of Ed is expecting schools to do. Now, I don't know what anyone else is doing, okay? And they might shortchange something. You know, someone said, can we go to school on Good Friday, but then get out early, get out at like 12:50 and count it as a day? No, we can't. That's not a day of school unless we have professional development that afternoon or parent-teacher conferences that night. But we're probably not going to substitute it with professional development on Good Friday afternoon either, because the law is clear about the only ways you can have part days and still count them as school days is if you're having parent-teacher conferences or professional development. And there might be a school that fudges on this in Iowa. I don't know, but we're not going to. Okay? Really, because we should want our kids to have 180 days of instruction. I feel bad that they're going to be there in June. It isn't the first time that kids will have gone in June, and it might not be the last. I think our biggest concern as an administrative staff is if we miss very many more days. You know, June 7th isn't the end of the year. It'd be nice to end on a Friday for kids rather than a Monday, but it's if we get more, then it's going to get more complicated about getting clear into that second week, and then it gets problematic. Summer school for teachers starts generally the 7th of June. So the area colleges and community colleges are talking about backing that off for summer school classes for teachers. So I'm not suggesting extended day, and I'm not suggesting Saturdays. I don't think we could come to an agreement with all of our employees to work on Saturdays, to be perfectly honest. And you got to have everybody here, or we can't operate. And you can't operate one building and then say, well, we could get everybody at the middle school to agree to be at school, and we'll just count it a day for each set. You can't do that. If you only get about half of your kids, then you have to decide whether, you know, if you're only going to get half the students there, then should you be having school? Because if half of our kids were sick, we'd call off school. We wouldn't have any school. If half of our 950 kids were sick, we'd call off school because of the flu or something like that. So why would we think that we should count it as a day? I want you to just understand kind of the thinking and really get a grip on that 180 days. I don't think the governor nor anyone else is going to pardon us with any days. There's some rumor now, I understand, going around the communities about we can petition the governor. We could probably petition him, but he's not going to do anything. That's not true. I think that we're going to have closer to 20 days of absence, you know, the 15, 18, 20 before they might, because that would put schools into the third week of June before they're going to do anything about this. So right now what you know is we're making up 5. You know, when seniors are graduating, you know, seniors will have to come back. You know that June 7th is the end for kids and June 8th for staff, and in another month we'll be a lot closer to being able to tell you know what this next month looks like before our next board meeting about where we're at. You know, if we have 4 or 5 more days, then we're going to have to talk about maybe an extended day for a period of time. But even with extended day, you think about it, we have to get well into April before we can be certain we're going to have good weather, because we really want 8 consecutive days, so that if I've got a first period English 1 class and a 4th period English 1 class, I want to be able to have those 2 classes catch up with each other within the same week. I don't want it to happen over a 3-week time period, or it's not a very useful makeup of time. So it's just challenging, and it's frustrating for everyone involved, but it is what it is. And you needed to know maybe more than the average guy does about what's right, you know, how this works and how it doesn't. If you have people that have questions, please let us know, and we'll make sure that we talk to them and talk them through it. It is by far the most discussed item when I'm at the grocery store or wherever it is. Or is it true? Or how come the governor isn't giving them each back a pardon? And I'm like, well, he's not giving anybody one. We're not being treated any differently, but different schools will make it up in different ways. So that's one of the things that you know, somebody's going to say, well, my nieces and nephews go to wherever, and they're doing it X way. I don't know if you see the news much, but the main public schools are having a heck of a time. They did a survey, had 10,000 responses to it, and now they found out that overwhelming responses to do Saturdays, and now they're figuring out they can't do they can't do Saturdays because they don't own their own bus fleet. They contract that work, and DART services won't work on Saturdays with them. And it's like, wow. So if you think it's complicated, it's not so complicated at East Sac as it is compared to some other places. I'll make that up.
Well, we have had a 5-day school week for
a long time. Well, we just about get to thinking that we're going to have one, and then we have to have it early out, or we miss a day. And,
We haven't had any such Christmas, have we?
First week in December.
Yeah, this last week.
Can you have school if the community kid, if the town kids can make it, and those parents that want to bring them in? That's what we.
Well, a lot of them, I know, schools do that.
I don't know. I mean, is it possible? Anybody that can make it to school, if you don't run the buses?
Well, actually, I probably talk to people on the phone on some of those early mornings when they are very unhappy that we're having school, and saying, you don't have to have it, your personal situation, don't take a risk and bring your kids to school. We're going to be, we're going to work with you about them being absent.
Sure.
But what we look at is that most everybody's going to be able to get here, so we have to have school on a day like this. But if we thought only our town kids, for instance, could get to school, that wouldn't be enough for us to have school. We have to know that more than that number of kids can be here. We really have not had high absenteeism on those days. I'm looking at the principals, I look at those absent lists, and we're missing kids more because they're sick on those days of snow.
Oh, by far. Yeah, there maybe once.
You've got town kids in both districts traveling back and forth. So the reason for not having school exists.
Well, like
even, if you had the town kids could get to school, you got them at the wrong school maybe.
Yeah.
You got a lot of high school kids driving their own car down there. It's dangerous enough when the roads are good.
Well, like Barbara said, I feel the phone call, and I'm sure Kevin has too, where the parent just says, it's too bad, I can't get out of my driveway, I'm not bringing the kid. Right. You say, thank you for the information, make sure you're taking care, and hopefully we'll see your child tomorrow.
Or if they're going to be late, you're fine. Don't worry about it. You called in, you know you're going to be late, and take your time. What we know is that it's very stressful for everyone, because they're stressed because they can't get to work, and they're stuck, and their road isn't open, and now the school wants them to be at school. And I sent an email to the principals and to the secretaries a couple of weeks ago, and just one morning I had about 5 consecutive phone calls where I felt like I was just kind of the counselor. I was listening and saying, you know what, it's okay. I don't know what it's like to live where you live, but don't even take the chance. And it was really through that stretch where we had no electricity. So people were out there very damp, calling from 40 miles away to say, well, we've gone to stay with so-and-so. And I'm like, you know what, don't try to come back, because that wouldn't make any sense. Your child hasn't missed a day of school yet. They can miss today, and that's going to be fine. But it also tells you how dedicated people are to getting their kids to school, which is pretty darn amazing on our side of it.
What happens to the little kids that if we extend the day by 40 minutes, is that going to really push our pre-K, kindergarten? Well, I mean, I don't know.
I would think that at that time of the year, it's much easier to do. There's a pre-K teacher. It's much easier to do at that time of the year than it would be if we were extending a day when they first start school, because they fall asleep and end up in the bus conked out.
So they're used to it, right?
Well, not so much anymore because we've had so many days off, but by then they'll be back in the swing of things. It'll be fine.
Ultimately, who has to make this decision about how it's done? Is this an administrative decision? Does the board have to act on this? I don't know the answer to that question.
The decisions that we've made so far really haven't had to have board action, because the Iowa Code directs us to, we need to go look for those days. But if we're going to do an extended day, I would want you to approve that so that you felt comfortable knowing, so what's that schedule going to look like? What are the bus routes going to look like? How's, the whole shebang of the whole deal, so that you felt like you were involved with that. I would think you would expect me to find dates and get those dates made up. Not worry about, work with the union to get master contract issues taken care of, and just take care of those where they're logical. But outside of that, if we were going to go to school on a Saturday, I'd want to have board approval to go to school on a Saturday.